The long wait is finally over. I finally was able to get the Deadpool and Wolverine from the movie. I ended up pre-ordering this probably about 2 months ago. I ended up getting it from the Hasbro website. I know Amazon had these figures as well, but I ended up getting these probably about 2 days ago. Finally decided to do this review. You guys can see this iconic look for Logan that Hugh Jackman is finally wearing the blue and yellow suit. And we do have a Deadpool right there, which actually is my first movie Deadpool figure from Marvel Legends. Definitely cannot wait to open this up. We're going to go ahead and just do a quick peek around the box. You guys can see on the back of the box, they both are very similar in different ways. You guys can see that it does have Deadpool there, which that's a different figure, pretty plain and basic figure, which I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to end up getting that one. But as you guys can see, the artwork is basically the same except Wolverine and Deadpool. And on the side, basically has a little thumbtack right there with a picture of Deadpool. On the other side, you do have Wolverine as well. But for this review, we're not going to do both figures. We're going to focus mostly on Wolverine right here. So let's go ahead and unbox Wolverine and get straight into the review. So first thing is, we're going to go ahead and open this box. We're going to go ahead and start from the bottom first. So on the back of both figures, they do have this artwork, which they're all exactly the same. You do have Deadpool right here, the X-Men logo, Deadpool's logo, Deadpool on a pony, a rainbow. You got Deadpool Wolverine right here. Pretty decent background. Not sure if you could actually use this for a figure stand or for a background for a figure. Basically just kept for the box. So let's go ahead and get into the figure. So here we have a tray shot of Wolverine. We're going to go ahead and look at the accessories first before we get into the actual figure itself. Like most Wolverine figures, you do come with two set of hands, typically one with claws, one without. I mean, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. You do have a right fist and you do have a left relaxed hand. Not sure exactly why. It kind of looks like a weapon holding hand, but he doesn't come with any weapons, so that's kind of strange. And of course, you have this iconic looking Hugh Jackman head sculpt. Definitely a lot better than the previous iterations of this character. You guys can see the detail, the color is really good. Not sure exactly why they decided to use the same head sculpt for the other version of Wolverine, but I guess the other version, when he's wearing the clothes with Deadpool, is definitely is considered the beginning of the movie. So I guess that's why they would use the exact same head sculpt, but overall not too bad in my opinion. Let's go ahead and crack out Wolverine. So here we got the Wolverine, definitely an iconic figure. Most people were definitely anticipated for Hugh Jackman to finally wear this version of the costume. This is actually a good figure appearance-wise. I know it's not completely accurate to what you see in the movie, but overall it's not too bad. I don't mind that it doesn't have the ripped shoulders, but you know, it's still pretty good, especially for $24.99. It's not a bad price point in my opinion. I'll be keeping this figure probably with this head sculpt because, you know, even though this is an iconic look, I feel like the head sculpt has a little bit more presence, like without the mask. Not sure exactly why. I'll probably be swapping them both in and out every now and then. You guys let me know down in the comment section below which version of the head sculpt would you guys use, the unmasked or the masked version of Wolverine. Looking at the detail of this figure is really good. I really don't mind the yellow. The yellow looks really well portrayed, I think. The blue and the black looks really good. A common issue with this figure, or most Wolverine figures, is the claw ends up getting a little bit bent, and it's usually this one for some weird reason. All my other Wolverines tend to have the same issue. I do have other versions right here. For whatever reason, the right claw tends to always be bent, but well, this one is both bent, but usually the right claw ends up being bent and not the other ones. Not sure exactly why. I'll probably do a comparison video of the other ones sometime later. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at the articulation. Just from looking at this figure, it does feel a little bit stiff. Not sure exactly why, but you know, for being a new figure, I guess that's typical. He does have double jointed knees, which is really good. Definitely pretty smooth in my opinion. And then let's see on the ankle, it is on a hinge. No toe articulation, which is not a really big deal. Thigh swivel, which is actually a great plus. Definitely good to have. He also does have butterfly joints, which is definitely a must for any kind of figure, especially a Wolverine figure. It doesn't have that exaggerated butterfly joints on the back, just like this figure right here. It would have been nice to have that so you guys could do those exaggerated claw movements, but not having it is really not a big deal, at least not for me personally. Definitely a good figure just by the way it looks. And of course, a figure like this, it is going to have double jointed elbows, which is definitely a must in my opinion. We're going to go ahead and look at that ab crunch as well. As far as the ab crunch, it definitely looks pretty decent. You know, not too bad, I don't think. And moving on the back is okay as well. And let's go ahead and look on the head sculpt. He could look down this much, which is kind of disappointing. Looks up, fairly decent, I guess. Really not that much. I mean, I don't go crazy when it comes to displaying and articulating my figures, but let's go ahead and get that arm rotation. It does go all the way 360. So this shoulder piece is attached to the bicep, is actually glued, and it has a little piece right there where I guess it sticks to. Not too bad. It would have been nice for this figure to have a little bit of weathering, but that's just something I'll explain later on in the video. It does have bicep swivel, which is good, pretty good to have. He also turns completely, not too bad at all. His head probably does a 360 as well. Overall, can't really complain. When it comes to articulation, I think it's actually a solid 8.5 out of 10. It is a little stiff. The butterfly joints are pretty good somewhat. I mean, kind of gotta play with it just a little bit to get it rotating just a little bit more. Another great plus to add on to this figure is that it's pinless, which is actually a great touch for this figure because not many Marvel Legends figures are pinless. You guys can see right there on the arms, on the biceps, it is pinless, which is actually really good. Even on the knees is pinless as well. And if you don't know exactly what the difference is, you guys can see that I got a different version of Wolverine where you can see the pins right there on the elbows and on the knees. It being pinless just makes it so seamlessly. Definitely makes the figure look a little bit more premium in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and add the accessories to this Wolverine figure, change the head sculpt, add the other hands that this figure comes with, and just see how versatile this figure is. So removing the head sculpt is actually quite easy. You're going to do just pop it out and then you just pop the new one back in. I'm definitely going to probably keep this version for a while because that head sculpt looks really good. And honestly, we're going to go ahead and get into the flaws a little bit later in this video. But honestly, the hand selection isn't really the best. Honestly, you do have one fist with no claws and one open palm hand with no claws as well. It would have been nice to have two sets of fists with no claws. Adding the interchangeable hands is actually quite easy. You just gotta remove it pretty smooth like any other figure. Now these pegs don't look like they're gonna break. They actually feel pretty good in my opinion. Really not too bad. You do have a fist for the right hand and an open palm hand on the left hand. Overall, not really the best thing in my opinion, but we'll get to the dislikes here later. As you guys can see, the head sculpt is actually quite good in my opinion. You guys can see that the paint on the beard is really good. The actual sculpt of the face and the hair, everything actually looks pretty good in my opinion. Really not too bad. The accessories this figure comes with is fairly decent. I definitely will consider it to be like a 6.5 out of 10. I think it could be better. The head sculpt and cowl is actually a must, but having better hands I felt like would have been just a little bit better in my opinion. So let's go ahead and get into the negatives of this figure. So when it comes to the negatives, I definitely think the accessories is kind of disappointing. Having two claws, obviously two sets of claws is pretty good. Having the one fist with no claws is pretty good, but having the open palm hand, it would have been nice if it came with an accessory, something that he's holding like a cup, a bottle, or something in that nature. But, you know, I would have preferred having two fists, but, you know, one isn't that bad. Now, something else that I've seen online that's not really a big deal to me is the boots. You guys can see that this one is higher than that one. Now, I'm not sure why the quality control is that bad. You guys can see that the cut is different. I'm not sure if this is just further up or further down. Not sure exactly which way it's supposed to be, but you guys can see that this one is slightly higher than that one, or this one could be slightly lower than this one. I mean, just depends how you look at it. When it comes to the paint application for the cowl, it definitely doesn't look like it's the same. You guys can see that the paint application on the masked version versus the unmasked is different. You guys can see that his beard is quite different right here. It doesn't even show that he has a beard, more so a 5 o'clock shadow, which is kind of weird because it really doesn't match in my opinion. But I guess, you know, quality control isn't that great. Not sure if anybody else has had that same issue. Something that's not really a dislike, but I forgot to mention that the belt is not attached to the figure. You guys can move this freely, which is actually pretty cool, I guess. But when he does move, it does get in the way, but it's not a negative, but it is something for me to note. The butterfly joints actually isn't as great as I thought it would be. As you guys can see, it doesn't really want to move as much as I would like it to. Not sure exactly what's hindering it. Maybe that inner piece right here was preventing it, but it's not as exaggerated as these other versions of Wolverine, which I would have actually preferred having these hinges right here, or this excessiveness that these older figures have. Having that in this figure would have been pretty good, but I guess it would have made it inaccurate, just made the scope a little bit more difficult. Not really too big of a deal, but also a con would be that it's technically not accurate because the shoulder pieces, it is different in the movie when it's portrayed with a cowl on, but that's not something I plan to change or really care all that much. When it comes to the overall figure, the packaging, the accessories, the accuracy, and the articulation, I definitely think this is a solid 8.5 out of 10. Would this be the best figure of the year? Maybe. It's definitely the top 10, maybe 5 of my favorite figures that came out this year. Not sure. I still have to do a few unboxings, a few figures coming in later on in this year, but for $24.99 is really not a bad pickup. Definitely would recommend getting this figure, even though it's not as accurate as some people would think. But honestly, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. What do you guys think of the Deadpool and Wolverine figure? I think is definitely worth it. Definitely nice to have this figure. I probably would check Hasbro or Amazon if you guys could still pick up this figure for retail. Now, I wouldn't pay resale because I'm pretty sure this figure eventually is going to be mass produced and hopefully easy to get. And I'll see you guys in the next video, which hopefully would be the Deadpool review video.